Hey everyone, this is Nick with Twisted Wrister Hockey, coming at you with oddball hockey topics, homebred statistical analyses, jersey unboxings, and more. Hey there Twisters, and welcome to another Twisted video. Today we'll be talking about the Tampa Bay Lightning and just how a team might be able to defeat them. It's just crazy the run that they've had so far. 124 points with 2 games remaining, 17 points ahead of the Flames, 19 ahead of the Bruins, and just looking at their roster, I mean top to bottom and position by position, they're just elite all around. We haven't seen a team like this perhaps in 20 plus years with like the Detroit Red Wings, the early dynasty that they kind of established from the late 90s into the aughts as well. You got, Nikita Kucherov, of course, he's a Hart Trophy candidate. You've got Steven Stamkos and Braden Point, 40 plus goals, maybe the best defensive core in the game. You've got Vasy, who's going to be up for the Vezina Trophy. So they just have a lot going for them right now. But we're going to take a look into their key statistics to see if there are any real holes in their game. Before I dive into that, be sure to give this video a like, and if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel for weekly hockey content. I'm also curious to know in the comments below, who do you think has a chance of actually upsetting Tampa Bay? Do you think they have a clear route to the Stanley Cup Finals, or do you think there's a team that will trip them up along the way? I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Alright everybody, so without further ado, let's go. Alright, so let's look at some of these ridiculous numbers for the Tampa Bay Lightning. This is through about 78, 79 games. It could change just a little bit with the next couple of games. So they're best in scoring 3.88 goals per game, almost 4 goals a game. They're 7th in goals against with 2.71, so not godlike, but still very good. They're only 14th in shots per game, but they have a 12% shooting percentage. That's the best in the NHL. So in other words, even if they're not manufacturing a ton of offensive chances, they're definitely capitalizing on them. So they have quality chances out there. They're also 2nd in 5 versus 5 shot percentage, at least as of a few games ago they were. Now they're only 21st in shots against, so they give up the 11th most shots in the NHL, but they do have Andrei Vasilevsky back there, and they likely give up low percentage chances. They're number 1 in power play, that's really no surprise, and they're also 3rd in penalty kill. That's a big difference from where they were last year. In faceoffs, they're ranked 8th, and as of a few games ago, they were 13th in their own zone and 17th in the neutral zone. Now, here's what I found really interesting. In rare instances in which they're trailing in a game, that doesn't happen very often, they have actually won the 2nd most faceoffs in the NHL. So we're not even talking about faceoff percentage. This is actual number of faceoffs won. So they really get down to business when they're trailing. They average almost 9.5 penalty minutes per game. That's actually the 4th highest in the NHL. So you can get under their skin and take away their opportunities to generate some offense. They're middle of the pack in block shots, only 21st in the NHL, and they're 23rd in forcing takeaways, probably because they possess the puck most of the time, so it's not like they're going to be playing too much defense. They also have the 6th fewest giveaways in the NHL, so they control the puck very well, and statistics definitely back that up when I was trying to look at, who's actually turning the puck over a lot. Kucherov, obviously, he has the puck a lot himself, and he's making these high-quality chances really happen out there. So even though he has 85 giveaways, that's not necessarily reflecting him being careless with the puck. It just means that he's doing things out there that really no one else can do, except for maybe McDavid. Now, when scoring first, Tampa is 38, 3, and 3, so teams have basically no chance when Tampa scores the first goal. When they're trailing, so when they give up the first goal, they are still 21, 12, and 1. So just because you score on them first, that doesn't necessarily guarantee a win for you. They're actually a slightly better team when they're outshot by their opponent. 28, 6, and 3 is their record. When trailing after the first period, they're 13 and 10, so that's still pretty good, but that's kind of pedestrian compared to their other stats. When they're tied after the first period, they are 16, 4, and 2. So one of my points is going to be, hey, do whatever you can to maintain your lead in the first period. Even when they're trailing after 2 periods, they're 9, 12, and 0. So this team has definitely come back in games before. You can never count them out, especially with their firepower, their top 6 especially. Opponents seem to have the most success in the first period, especially when they're the home team. Opponents at home have outscored Tampa 43-39, so they should use home ice to their advantage. When Tampa is home, they've outscored their opponents in the first period by a 25-goal margin, 62-37. So based on these stats, I have 3 main takeaways that I think can serve as a guideline, not necessarily the rule book, but the guideline to start with to find a way to beat this team. First of all, you must score the first goal and find a way to hold your lead through the first period. You have to be disciplined out there in order to do so, or else Tampa can score a power play goal and get right back in it. Take advantage of home ice early. Tampa isn't the best team when they concede the first goal on the road, but do not lose faceoffs. So don't get cocky out there, because Tampa's going to clamp down. As I said before, when they're trailing, they've won the second most faceoffs in the NHL. Number 2 is bottle up Steven Stamkos. Now, Stammer has scored over 40 goals this year. He's playing very well, but still, look at these takeaway to giveaway numbers. He has 27 takeaways to 55 giveaways. And the thing that I noticed is that Tampa scores a lot of their goals on slap shots. So, in other words, you have to actually apply some pressure to him. Let somebody else have to make a play out there, or jump on him when he has the puck, and have him force a giveaway by putting more personnel on him or around him. So I think Steven Stamkos could actually be an X factor, especially as we get later into the Stanley Cup playoffs. And even though he's not much of a goal scorer, a lot of Tampa's opportunities come through Mikhail Sergachev. Especially, he's not averaging like 25 minutes of ice time, but he still has a pretty good offensive output for this season. So when he's out there, he has a good Corsi, he's generating chances, so also look for ways to disrupt him. My last takeaway is to play tall. Tampa shoots high, and that means over the net more than any other team. They have 173 missed shots that went over the net. The next closest team has 36 fewer. So Tampa is shooting high. They're trying to, beat the goalie, stick side, glove side, hit the crossbar, whatever. They are 4th in shots off the post and 6th off the crossbar. So if I'm a goaltender, first of all, if you can't decide which goaltender to play, I'd say probably play the one who can, flash the leather better or just stands taller. So that's also a guideline I'd recommend to opposing teams. Now, when looking at my guidelines, I wanted to see how my guidelines fared when looking at Tampa's last 5 defeats. So their last 5 defeats came at the hands of Montreal, Washington, St. Louis, Minnesota, and Boston. Now, Montreal hasn't clinched yet, but they're in the hunt. Minnesota was in the hunt for a while, but otherwise, Washington, Boston, St. Louis, these are strong teams. Let's look at each individual game and some key numbers there. So, when Tampa lost to Montreal, the Canadiens won the face-off battle by a staggering 35-22 margin. They also only took 1 penalty. The trio of Kucherov, Stamkos, and Braden Point combined for only 4 shots on goal, and Carey Price was solid in net. He stopped 22 out of 24 shots. Washington, they got out to a 3-0 lead in the first period. They had a slight advantage in faceoffs, 33-28. They got 5 power play opportunities, and they, yes I know, pun intended, they capitalized on 2 of them. Braden Holtby had actually kind of a pedestrian game if you want to look at raw save percentage, 25 saves on 28 shots, but that doesn't necessarily indicate the quality of the shots. So if you get good goaltending, that should certainly give you a pretty good chance to, maintain your lead. Now let's look at the St. Louis game. Just like Washington, the Blues jumped out to a 3-0 lead. And as mentioned, Tampa plays better when they're outshot. In this game, they actually outshot the Blues 42-26. Steven Stamkos, Kucherov, and Braden Point totaled 14 shots on goal, so it's not like they didn't have their chances. But Jordan Binnington, who could be in the Calder discussion, 39 saves on 42 shots. Let's check out the Minnesota game. So oddly enough, Tampa dominated the faceoff circle 32-24. Minnesota, however, only took 2 penalties, so that means that Tampa's power play wasn't out there very often. Now, though he didn't have any giveaways, Steven Stamkos was a -3. And Devin Dubnyk was outstanding in net. He stopped all 25 shots for the shutout. Lastly, let's look at their game against Boston. So Boston dominated the shot clock 41-21. And again, I'm saying that Tampa plays better when they're outshot, but here the shot margin was 20, and Tampa blocked a ton of shots in that game too. Tampa had 16 giveaways though. Now 3 of those came from Mikhail Sergachev, who I said, again, if you can pressure him, then that can actually play to your advantage. And Tuukka Rask, another solid goaltending effort, he stopped 20 out of 21 shots. So after looking at all this, you see games where Tampa gets outshot. You see games where they've outshot their opponent. You've seen, differences in face-off numbers. You've seen Steven Stamkos actually taking care of the puck for the most part. And so really there isn't one definitive stat that I can point to for each of these games. It's just a matter of getting some solid goaltending, hopefully jumping out in the first period and limiting Tampa's power play chances. That's what I take away from this. Alright everybody, so as you've seen, there's really no clear-cut way to defeat these Lightning. It's unbelievable just how, even looking at a case-by-case situation, there isn't really a one trend that you can point to that says, hey, this is exactly how you beat this team. I just had a couple of conjectures based on the stats that I noticed. If you have any ideas, though, of how to actually defeat Tampa, let me know in the comments below. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. I'm putting out weekly content on oddball hockey topics, homebrewed statistical analyses, jersey unboxings, and more. This has been Nick with Twisted Wrister Hockey. Thanks for tuning in, everyone, and I hope to see you again soon.